Everybody, it's Debbie LaChusa. We're here today with another Living Inspired interview. And today I have with me Alaya Dannu, and she sent me the most fascinating inspired story. She answered the questions that I have on my website. And I was just telling her right now before we got started, I wanted to talk to her in person about this because it's very interesting what she's going to share. And I want people to be open and really listen to her because I know that, number one, we can all be inspired by she's taken some great big leaps of faith, and I think she's still taking leaps of faith, and it's very inspiring. And I want her to have the chance to really talk about that and tell us what's leading her. Welcome, Alaya.
Well, hi, thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome and invitation.
You're very welcome. Now, tell everybody where you are calling in from today.
So right now I'm calling in from Compton, Dundon, which is in the UK. And it's 5 miles from Glastonbury. I'm at a retreat center that is located within what they call the Tenemos, or the sacred space of Avalon. So, technically you could say I'm in Avalon right now.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. What a great place for an inspired interview.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. So, you made a decision. You started something back in 2015 that really began your inspired journey. And I would love it if you would just talk to people about what decision you made and what's happened.
Well, in 2015, this was the beginning of March, and I was at my maternal aunt's house, one of my maternal aunt's house, and I was at a point where I just didn't know if staying there would be the best thing, and what to do with all of the dreams that I've documented. I have 6 dream journals, and I've been getting these messages to write, but I didn't know how. Write how? Write what? About what? So I thought, why don't I join an MFA program in creative nonfiction for some guidance? And I applied very close to the deadline. So I said, if I get accepted, then this is the next part of my journey. And I got accepted. The director of the program, she documents her dreams as well. So she was intrigued. She said, wow, this would be interesting to see how you come up with, a way of writing your pieces. And the summer class for this program is a writing workshop in Ireland, in Dingle Kerry, which is on the West Coast. So the way everything fell into place, I immediately knew. I said, okay, I'm going to go to Ireland, but I don't know if I'll be coming back to the U.S. So I booked a one-way ticket. And I packed my things, and I told my mother, I said, things are not going too well, between you and your sister. I'm leaving. Make sure you leave right away because, the environment wasn't healthy. So I left, and I spent my week crafting my, my dreams and getting feedback. And then when the week was over, I just started to float from town to town, but as a volunteer. And the way I would move from one location to the next is by seeking guidance from my dreams or in meditation. And the main reason is because the journey is so specific that I really cannot choose, this location I'd like to go to simply because of X, Y, and Z, or because I think it's beautiful, or because I've never been there. The locations that are revealed are locations that are connected to the dreams that I've had, or the dream experiences that reveal particular information. And these counties in Ireland, they're all connected to some of the information that's been revealed. So I did that for my full term of my visa of 90 days. Moving from county to county, volunteering at places where I could. But at that time I had some money. So it wasn't, it wasn't too difficult. It wasn't, there really wasn't a lot of fear or worry. But by the end of my journey, which was the beginning of August, actually, 2015, it was 4 days before my visa was up, and I had no idea as to where to go. And the only thing that causes stress is when people around me start to ask, where are you going? Where are you going? How are you getting there? When you leaving? And I start to panic because my answers do not support their mindset, or do not support their way of doing or way of thinking. And I remember it clearly. I had this dream where my stepfather and my mother were standing outside of a room I was sleeping in, and she said to him, well, you have to help her. You just take this one chance to help her. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And then he put some money on my headboard. So when I woke up, I was like, okay, so he's going to help, but not necessarily with monetary, material money. Money in dreams to me, usually, depending on my situation, it could mean assistance, blessings, or some sort of gain, material gain. So I emailed him. I said, hey, I have 4 days left. Excuse me. I can get to wherever I need to go, but do you know anybody in England? because I don't. And he says, oh yeah, my sisters are there. Why don't you contact them? And I said, oh my God, great. So I contacted them, and I said, I have a conference. There's a conference in the Netherlands I want to apply to present at. It's a dream conference, which is held by the International Association for the Study of Dreams. And they hold these conferences annually, but in different parts of the world. But in 2016, it was going to be held in the Netherlands. So I that was just my way of showing them, I had some sort of plan, when in truth I didn't. So that was my practical proposal that they accepted, and so they were like, well, if you can get to London, you can stay here, or you can stay in Norwich. One of his sisters lives in London, and the other in Norwich. And so I said, okay, great. So they gave me their information. They said, just in case customs give you, an issue or a problem. And then I booked my ticket, my bus ticket, and I left Ireland. So there I was in England, between London and Norwich, just receiving a lot of information through dreams. And with regards to how I would eat, I had, my step-aunt, so I really didn't have to worry about food. But when I needed to go to the British Library to do more research on the information that's revealed, let's see, suddenly somebody needed help with writing papers, so I would charge for that time. Or my mother would have extra bit of money. And, if anybody knows, being in the UK is really expensive. So for that time, I had a little bit of something just to get from Norwich to London, and to travel within London to the British Library and back. Come April 2016, my proposal is already, I submitted the proposal for the Dream Conference. It was accepted. So, I was like, oh, that's great. Divine timing, everything happened, the way it needed to. But there was a problem. If I went to the Netherlands or to Germany or France to volunteer in April, I wouldn't really be able to stay throughout my entirety of the visa, because we only have 3 months in the Shenzhen zone. And then my sister contacts me, and she says, she needs help with her surgery recovery in June. So I'm trying to think. I'm like, okay, this is where I connect to, spirit, and I say, look, you're taking me on this journey. I don't know where to go next. In this world, there's this time limit I have. So what country do I need to go to between now and June? Like, where do I need to go that's in alignment with this lineage? Show me, tell me. And I looked on a map. So for this one, it was more of an intuitive response. I looked on a map and I just said, well, what's in Turkey? I don't know what's in Turkey. And at the time, know nothing about Turkey. Didn't know that it used to be called Anatolia before that. And then before that, something else, dependent on the civilization. It goes to show you how connected I am to world history. I go on to the volunteer work website that I use, and I Google Turkey. I search in Turkey, and the first establishment that comes up is a B&B that is on Mount Ida, which is sacred to the mother goddess Kybele. So I'm a little shocked. I'm like, okay, well, I'll ask if I can volunteer for a month and see what they say. And the first, literally within a couple of hours, they got back and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you for a month. I said, okay. And then I do more research, and then I realized that that particular location of the B&B used to be a part of the Greek, an extension of the Greek civilization. So it used to be like a Greek colony of all along the coast. And then Mount Ida, there's only two in the world. One I think it's on Crete, and then the other one is here, and they're in Turkey. So I get there. How do I get there? I had some money. I asked my mother, for extra help. But at that point, that was the last bit that I had saved from my time in England. So then I get to Turkey, and I volunteer. They loved me so much. They asked me to stay for an extra month, which was great because then it extended my time in the Shenzhen zone. And I earned a little bit of money from doing some dance workshops. So I used that for transit, leaving Turkey to get to Belgium. And then, so getting to Belgium, looking at it from the outside, it seems like, oh, you're just going there to help your sister. But it was also a period of incubation to help me to prepare for the presentation, at the Dream Conference. And the information that came through, it was just so mind-blowing that I ended up short-circuiting the apartment that I stayed in when I went to turn on the light to use the toilet, because I was connecting a lost dance practice to ancient Buddhist traditions, to the information that's been revealed to me about ancient Egypt. So I was trying to figure out, well, how is an ancient Indian dance practice connected to ancient Egypt that's connected to Greece? I don't understand. So I was piecing all of that together to put my presentation together. And then it all fell into place. And it was just such a huge energetic surge that I did short circuit the apartment. And what's interesting is that the guy I was staying with, who was a colleague of my sister, he said his apartment's never been short-circuited in the 5 years he's been there. But I didn't tell him why, because I didn't want to scare him. He's as practical as you can get.
I gotta ask you, because I'm listening to you, and I'm sure everybody else listening is just going, like, mind blown. Like, does this stuff really happen? So I want to ask you, like, when this is happening for you, everything you've just shared, does it blow your mind, or do you just, of course, like?
Both. When it blows my mind is when I get to a point where all creative options just seem to not be there. And I say, okay, I have no idea what to do. You know what to do. Just please make it happen, because there's a certain way to do this. And then other times it's like, yeah, oh yeah, of course. Well, no, I shouldn't be surprised. Yeah. So it depends on the extremity of the situation. But yeah, it's so.
Thank you for saying that. I don't know how your mind could not be blown by some of that. Like, I don't care how in tune you are. Sometimes it's just amazing to me. I kind of have the same. I haven't had anything quite as wild as what you're talking about happen. Probably because I haven't put myself out there quite on the edge the way you have. But I do go back and forth between, of course, to, oh my God. Wow, you know, so I think it is kind of a dance between the two, depending on how magnificent the inspired idea is. I want to ask you a little bit about your inspired ideas come to you through your dreams.
Right.
I'm glad that this is coming up because I think it's different for everybody. For me, they come usually when I'm out running or if I'm out in nature. You know, because that's when my head clears. And so for me, that's what facilitates it. So for you, it's when you're sleeping, it's in your dreams. Did you like immediately recognize that that's what was going on? Or did it take you a while to start to connect the dots and figure out that these were actually inspired ideas that were setting you on a path?
It did take me a little while to realize it because growing up, dreams were just a natural experience for me. But by the time I turned 16, my mother said, okay, you have to start writing these down because they seem important for you. And then from 16 to, 4 years ago, it was just writing them down and being really like in awe. Wow, this is amazing. This is interesting. But when things in waking life stopped working in accordance to society or family obligation, that was the only place I could look. And then when I looked back, I realized, oh, you've been trying to show me something past 16 years and I totally ignored it. So that's why I can't do anything in accordance to what everyone else thinks I should, because I haven't been paying attention.
Paying attention. I love that. And I'm also I'm reading between the lines and what you're telling me that the way you're living and following your dreams requires a great deal of trust.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
It's an absolute necessity. Worry, doubt is not to say I don't worry, and it's not to say I don't doubt. It's when I start to worry, I have to stop and say, okay, the more I worry, the less connected I'll be, and I'll be blinded by it, and then I'll miss an opportunity that will take me a much longer time to get back into alignment with. But trust is very important. You just have to realize that, yes, everyone's path is individual. What you have to do is what you have to do, and what this person has to do, that's just their stuff. Sure, you'll interact with people and things might be in alignment for that short time, but when you're in your own space, when you're in your own, stream of life, you have to trust that everything will turn out the way it needs to be. Because if you don't, then it's a waste of time, and you're adding extra time that need not be there. But you have to have faith. You have to trust in the entire process. The universe will not steer you wrong if you just surrender to it. It won't.
I believe that wholeheartedly. I think that's one of the hardest things. For me, it was one of the hardest things because I was always a planner and I had the illusion of control, and so letting go of all of that and learning to follow and trust. And I still trip over myself sometimes. I just wrote a blog post this morning. I kind of got caught up again. And so it's a constant for me of like flowing, and then tripping over myself and going, wait a minute, and you're off, the inspired path again, get back on. You made a comment earlier about not sharing fully with the person you were staying with because he's, very much of this world, I guess. Yeah. Do you find that people often don't understand how you live?
Oh yes. Every way I turn, every which way I turn, I get people to say, oh, it's so nice to follow your dreams, but you still have to eat, you still have to live, you still have to X, Y, Z. And I always come back with, with a loving retort. I say, well, who says I want to own a house? Who says I want to own a car? And if I want to eat, who says I have to run around with a baking bowl? There are so many different ways to get food. There's so many different places to live. But what matters most is, what is your point and purpose of being here? What is it? Is it to have a family? If it is, good for you. Is it to work 10 to 10, 7 days a week? Good for you. It's not going to be like that for everyone. And even when I explain it to that, maybe 1 out of every 10 people that I come across will get it. And that's okay. Because guess what? I'm not here to honor anyone else's projections. I'm not here to tiptoe around people's insecurities or triggers. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not that person. And I've had to, for a while, I tried to be, the friendly and kind person, but it's just gotten to a point where it's like, look, this is something that's bigger than us. This is bigger than everyone. And that is what put me here. And so I have to honor that. And if you can't, you can't at least acknowledge, okay, well, that's your thing. Well, too bad. But yeah.
Yeah. I hear you, because I think it's just our society and our conditioning, and we sort of grow up with this predetermined path laid out in front of us, and this is what everybody does. And so when you start to steer away from that, I think it threatens people a little bit. It scares them, because I think on one hand, they're probably admiring you. I mean, you are literally following your dreams. Yes. Everybody says that. You are actually doing it. And I think there's probably a lot of people that would love to be able to do that, but they're too scared. They don't have the trust, or they've built and established a life that's too hard to walk away from, at least in their mind, to do what you're doing. So, I applaud you for just saying, this is my path, and I don't apologize it, and I don't expect you to understand it. I'm just going to do my thing. You go do your thing. Because I think a lot of people, especially if you have family or friends or people that may or may not be supporting it or may or may not understand it, it could be easy to cave into that and just go back and do what everyone expects you to do.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've spent a couple of years doing an experiment with it, and it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. It's like, say at one point you've never remembered your dreams, and then you decide to do a workshop that teaches you how to become lucid. And then all of a sudden you start to remember bits and pieces. And then you start making this commitment, this creative commitment in your waking life to strengthen that connection and to open the door wider. And you open it wide, and then the doors disappear. But once those doors disappear, there is no closing them. You can't close it. Like, there's no door. The doors are gone. And I've tried to say, okay, I'm going to put this on the back burner. I did that in 2011 when I accepted a teaching position as an English teacher in China. I verbally said out loud, when I arrived in China, I'm going to put my dreams on the back burner. They will be second, and I'm going to dedicate myself to this company so that I can move up the ladder. I lasted 7 months, and I had to take all of my vacation days at once. And the company flagged me as high risk to leave. It was Disney English, and the contract was 15 months. And I arrived in January, and I left in December. And I left in the dead of night. I'm not kidding. I sent in my resignation letter. And right after New Year's, I packed up what I could. I left my apartment fully furnished with a lot of stuff. I left the keys at the front desk. I stayed at the hotel for a night, and I left. I was sick the whole time, not just because Shanghai is polluted and I'm highly sensitive to my environment, but I was just not getting better. and the dreams. It was as if they would spill over into the waking state. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm going crazy. I couldn't focus in the classroom. I was always tired. Like, dream imagery was just showing up. It was bizarre. So I was just like, okay, evidently I can't do this. You're second, work is first. No, you come first, you come second, you come third, and you're going to take care of every single thing along the way because you know how to do it better than I do. And that's what's been happening. So yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that because I look back over my career and every time I was not following what I really should have been doing for me, but I was doing what I thought I should be doing for other people. It shows up in my body. I get sick. I don't feel good. I get sinus issues or my body starts hurting, and it's very reliable. It's my barometer. It happened again this past week and I went through it again. And so I think it's important to be in tune and in touch with that. Because it screams pretty loud. If you pay attention and you're listening, it definitely will steer you in the right way. So
yes.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
If there's somebody listening or watching that wants to open up and trust and live a more inspired life, what advice would you give to them?
Do not make the assumption or think that your idea or your ideology of an inspired life is going to be that. It's not. It never is. When you say you want to do that, you have to be prepared to surrender and sacrifice a lot. If that inspired life is not going to look like what you're comfortable with, be prepared to be uncomfortable. Be prepared to change, to transform in ways that you would only read in a fiction novel or something, because it's never what you think it's going to be, at least not in the beginning. And then when you come to realize or begin experiencing that inspired life, your thoughts, your beliefs will be more in alignment, but it's not going to be the exact picture perfect image in your mind. So just be prepared for a lot of changes, transformative changes, not comfortable adjustment changes, transformative changes. The apple will become grapes, completely different.
Okay, that begs one more question, because I don't want people running for the hills and going, why would I ever want to do that? That's awful. Help people understand. I get it, but help people understand who haven't done this. What is the gift that's waiting for them when they go through that?
The gift is embodying your soul purpose. It's accomplishing or fulfilling your purpose, the point and reason for being here. That's what it is. And when people do ask me that question, I always give that answer. And I also like to add, unless you want to come back and try again until you get it right, keep going over and over and over again. But that's the biggest takeaway. You're living true to your truest self. The thing you hear people always talking about, it may not look like that for you, but once you're in that space, it's like you're breathing that fresh, crisp air every single day, even when it's cloudy, even when it's, hot and arid, but you still have that, at least I'm living the life I know I need to be. And that's, for me, that's the biggest takeaway. It really is.
Yeah. And I would add to that there is a comfort in that. You go through a lot of discomfort in the process, and even still when you're on the inspired path. But at the same time, it's kind of ironic because there's a comfort in getting up every day and doing the things that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And there's a comfort and a flow and an ease. You still work hard. You still have obstacles and challenges. But for me anyway, that comfort and that flow and that ease, I never experienced that the way I used to live. I
completely agree. I don't, I don't have anything else to add to that, because that is absolutely right. That I agree.
Awesome. Well, then we're done.
Okay.
We're actually out of time anyway, so that is a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having this opportunity and for sharing it with those that are seeking to live that inspired life.